But anyway, while I'm doing this talk, telling this story, there's a woman, a white woman in the audience who raises her hand and said, I'm Shirley Hen. I'm the person that you spilled the coffee on. And the audience just went crazy. And they met each other halfway around the room. And he said, I'm sorry. And she said, I know you were. I don't know why they made such a big deal out of it. It was an accident. And that grounded me in that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. That moment. If I wasn't convinced before, it convinced me that this is where I should be at this time in my life. And Mr. Smith was a very snazzy dresser and all of that kind of stuff, but he had a totally different experience. And because of the time, too, because if it had been 10 years earlier, he would not have been able to work on the railroad, you know. But luck always played a role in our lives. It's like when Nikki Giovanni recruited me from graduate school at Hollins. I was a student there. Somebody told her. No, I heard her on the radio while I was unpacking. I had just gotten to Roanoke. And then I recognized the voice. And I couldn't place it. And then when she finished the interview, I turned the radio on in the middle of the interview. And the journalist said, we'd like to thank Professor Nikki Giovanni, professor at Virginia Tech today. And I go, wow. And of course, Roanoke is, 40 miles. So I wrote her a letter and introduced myself. She wrote me back and introduced me to come to Tech. That's how it went. And then later on, I was invited to apply for a position there. That's how it happened. Yeah. Writing letters is a very valuable thing to do. I have written letters all my life, and they've always paid off in a big way. You don't always get what you ask for, but that was an example of just writing a letter. And I didn't expect to hear from her, but it was like, well, I did it. I wrote the letter. It's not, you can't control anybody except what you do yourself. So, yeah. And, we were friends until the day she died. We were friends. And she was a cheerleader. I miss her terribly. Yeah. But that's how it happened. That's how it happened. And one thing leads to another one and another thing. But it's very important that we remember, to whom much is given, much is expected. That's very big. And so much has been given to us, and we forget about that sometimes in terms of where we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. Well, we always have to look back at that person behind who's trying to go to and give that person a hand, because many somebodies gave us hands or reach out to say, you can do this. Or, just in the church, baby, you can do this. You know what I mean? And it gives you strength, and it lets you know, hey, you can do that. And then you start believing in it. And if you don't believe in it, nobody else is going to believe in it. So I always believed in what I was doing, and I still do. There's so many stories there. Just think how long Black people, African Americans, have been in this country. And just not the stories of the South, but the stories of all over this country. They're marvelous stories. That's why we're marvelous, But when you teach African American literature, there's a different narrative for the most part when you're teaching African American students, because there's this element of shame, embarrassment, and it's like, and you're embarrassed and you're shamed. Why? Because somebody did something to you? Does that make any sense? You have to rethink this. You have to talk to your grandmother, talk to your great-grandmother, talk to your people, ask questions, because Black people have gotten into the habit of not wanting to talk about the past because it's too painful. Well, you lived it. That was the painful part. Martin Luther King didn't say, this is too painful. Rosa Parks didn't say, this is too painful. Mr. Canty didn't say, this is too painful. Well, it is painful, but everything is painful. Everything is. There's nothing in this world that's not. If you believe in something and you want to do it, that is within you to do it. It's the hunger. And the more you learn about our history, the hungrier you're going to be. It's just marvelous. We are still here. We were not meant to be here this long. We were meant to be here to cook and clean and pick cotton and all the other plantation jobs. Other than that, we were not needed. But we, in spite of ourselves, this is our country too. Actually, it's more than our country. It's more than any other person who's ever been here. Country. We built the White House. We built this country. We built schools. You know, we built jobs. We sent our children to that. We built churches. So if this country doesn't belong to us, it doesn't belong to anybody. But it takes deep down searching for our young people. And even when I was at Hollins, very, very rare did you see an African American student. And if you did, that student was not interested in talking to me because by her imagination, I didn't have anything to offer her. That is her loss. I have everything to offer her that she needs. But that's what racism does to you. It teaches you to hate your own. And boy, they've done a number on us. Yeah. So that's the way it is. But yeah, you believe in it, you're willing to die for it. Not that we have to, we can write books and stuff, but still, when you think about all the people, all the generations who've come before us, if that doesn't move you, you're not movable. If you're not moved by the history, your own personal history, you can look back and anybody in your family and see what they've done. Maybe not all of your family, but you can always find somebody who has done something so marvelous. That's why you're here. That's how we got here. Yeah. By somebody doing something so marvelous.
Honestly, I feel like that is so well said. Honestly, making me think back on my own family. Like, my own family was like my parents and my grandparents. They both like picked cotton and were picking strawberries, and like knowing how strong my own parents are and like my own
Yeah.
grandparents, and the fact like they're already so strong already to be able to like get up. No complaints, like the fact like they never complain about anything because like they're like, this is just the work. And like
Well, because
even
they
just
knew so much worse.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the
And
fact
that's
like even
that's what I try to invite people to do. Look in your own family and keep digging. Keep asking questions. Go through that box of letters upstairs in the basement somewhere or in the you know what I mean? Go through that. You will be moved. I assure you. Letters. And just think, not many black people could read or write back then, but you can find stuff. Keep digging. Just keep digging. Yeah.
even
You
wearing
know, a
the
few years, I'm sorry.
are
A,
you
a,
good?
a few years ago, you know, a box of maybe 3 boxes of information about King was found in the attic. And Sotheby's put on an exhibit. This was several years ago. And it was interesting because it was an exhibit of writing. It was letters that he had written. I remember being in there, and there was a letter from Lovett High School in Atlanta, Georgia, White High School. And they write, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. King, we are returning your $25 of admissions for your son, Martin, as we can't accept him because he is a Negro." Okay. So we're just reading. I go, Martin is not going to let them get away with that. So then we read Martin's letter. "Dear Lovett School, and just think, I thought you were Christians." And it just went on. It's like, that's what you have to do. And I go, surely there's another letter in here. We're just digging. And he had written on everything, napkins. When he wrote the Birmingham letter from a Birmingham jail, there was no typewriter. There was no, he wrote it on napkins, on book, on page, anything he could get his hands on. There was no dictionary. There was no this. It is one of the most marvelous documents in this country. Letter from a Birmingham jail. And this man wrote it in jail. No help, no support, no, just wrote it. And every time I teach it, every time I read it, it's more brilliant than the last time. And when you think about the conditions in which he wrote it under, but think about the conditions that so many of us have lived through. Our parents, our grandparents, our uncles, cousins, relatives. We don't think about that because we want to forget it. But no, you cannot forget it. You have to embrace it. And it needs to remind you how you got here, how you got to be where you are. We didn't do it on our own. We did some, but it is our history that pushed us forward, that keep us going. And no one can take that away from us. So those are the parameters which I operate out of. I try to.
Absolutely. I feel like this is one of the perfect questions for you. I feel like you've defined what it means to be revolutionary and have interacted with so many revolutionary figures throughout your life. I think a question that a lot of people would have is, what would your definition of being revolutionary be?
Oh, revolutionary is, if you're hearing something on the news, it's something negative, right? But it's change. It's change. It's change when we now, students whose ancestors went to Holland now should be able to get a scholarship to Holland. I don't know if it has happened yet, but it's happening. You know what I mean? That's revolutionary. It's revolutionary that people who work there, all of the people who work there, are treated equally. If your son works there if your daughter can go there because you were a professor, well, then your daughter ought to be able to go there if you were a cleaning lady as well. That's revolutionary. Revolution is not Malcolm X and the fighting and all of that. That is important. But the deep down revolution is what we leave behind and what we fight for. And what we fight for doesn't have to be a public fight. It can be going through the library. It could be, I know so much useless information about Hollands. For an example, all the young women they didn't have classes on Friday, okay? Because the young women had to get dressed up for their bows. All the shower heads only came to here because it didn't want to mess up their hairdo. You know what I mean? And it was like,
Yeah.
this is useless. It is, but it's not. You know what I mean? It reinforces to us how they became this way. Today we wouldn't even think of that. What's the building? It used to, when you first come in, it used to be a medical facility. Uh, I don't think it is anymore. But it used to be a tea room, tea house, in the 30s, and that's where the women went and had tea after they had their short showers that didn't reach their hair, kind of thing. And I just used to crack up and go, God, I know all this useless stuff, but it isn't. It's part of history too, kind of thing. And you know, it. I think black people often get bogged down with what white people think. Well, you need to give up on that. You're not trying to please them. You're trying to please your mother, your grandmother, your ancestors who paved the way for you. That's a better way of dealing with that. You don't care about those people. They don't care about you. Not some of them do. So when I'm speaking in general terms.